In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in.
The government and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
I think first of all we have to look at the general impression both candidates gave us tonight. And in one case we saw a candidate who was very well composed, very well prepared, who landed all her punches and who repeatedly saw that the other candidate went off the debate that she laid out for him. And that candidate was Kamala Harris. She came across as someone who was very well prepared for the moment and still came across also as fresh, sometimes as spontaneous, often very rehearsed, but always competent. By contrast, Donald Trump could have landed some easy punches, but usually missed the moments to do so. For instance, at the very beginning of the debate, Kamala Harris was asked whether Americans were better off now after 3.5 years of a Biden administration, which she is part of. And she dodged the question by going into the direction of discussing the opportunity economy that she wanted to create. Donald Trump could have held her accountable, but he missed that opportunity.
When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America.
What we clearly saw in the debate is that Kamala Harris wants to address moderate, undecided voters and that she wants to persuade them that she is no longer the candidate they saw more than 4 years ago, who was more to the left and who was having more progressive ideas and proposals and who was, for instance, opposed to fracking. She clearly addressed voters of that mold several times, for instance, by insisting that she is no longer opposed to fracking, that she, for instance, is thinking about the voters of Pennsylvania, many of whom have jobs in this industry. In the case of Donald J. Trump, we saw in the beginning that he clearly wanted to come across as more statesmanlike, as more calm and collected, but unfortunate for his camp, he often lost his cool and took the bait that Kamala Harris laid out for him. For instance, when it came to immigration, he started sharing certain urban myths about immigrants that allegedly eat the pets of people in Ohio, or at another instance when Kamala Harris was mocking the size of his rallies and the boredom that people experience there, he again lost focus and talked about the great popularity that he enjoys with his supporters. So he tried to stay on message for the most part, but he often lost his cool.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
Those of us who watched the debate wanting to learn more details about Kamala Harris's plans were often a bit dissatisfied because she wasn't really going into detail or giving us an inkling of how she wanted to actually make these plans happen. In one instance, Donald J. Trump called Kamala Harris out on that. And that was when she talked about wanting to sign a national abortion bill. And he pointed out that this was very unlikely to ever come up for a signature, since she would lack the majority for such an abortion bill in Congress. And he pointed out that in the past, the Biden administration had promised people with student loans that they would be forgiven these student loans and that these plans had also come to nothing. So these were rare instances when he called her out on the record of the Biden administration and pointed out what made plans not very feasible or not very likely to be acted on.
She said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. She can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. What's going on here? You're going to end up in World War.
Normally, these debates aren't that important for the race as such. Oftentimes we see the so-called winner of these debates peak a bit in the polls right after the debate, but then oftentimes the effect of a good debate performance vanishes and is no longer detectable. In this case, it might be a bit different because from what we know now, this might be the only debate that we get. It's the only direct confrontation of the two political parties in this particular race. So it might have a bit of a longer lasting effect. And if we're looking at the mood right now, it might help Harris a bit more. However, it's an extremely tight race this year. And the only votes that truly matter are those of the voters in the swing states. And how many of those have really watched and analyzed the debate? Well, that remains to be seen. And we also see how quickly these debates are forgotten by another headline already overshadowing the debate, and that is the fact that Taylor Swift is endorsing Kamala Harris.